we're back. Right now we have our distinguished guest, Patti Capouch of Impact Behavioral Health Partners.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thank you. For those who might not know about us, I'll just give a little bit of history. We've been providing services to the community for over 35 years. And how we started was our founders, it was at a time when mental institutions were being shuttered, and they wanted those folks coming back to the community to have a safe and dignified place to live. And so they came together to provide that with them, and so we started out primarily then as a housing organization. We then added behavioral health and employment services, and just recently started doing family supportive housing programs. So yeah, we've been providing services for over 35 years. And yes, the city funds us for case management and, as I said, some therapy programs, but the majority of our funding comes from federal, state, foundations, and donations is where we get the majority of our funding.
Yeah, the little bit of research that I did on our guest, I didn't see a lot of that, which I'm glad that you informed us, because community cares, or at least it's supposed to. And when I read about your family services housing, and I thought that was an awesome focus, you know, to provide housing for families like that.
Yeah, that's a pretty new program for us. We're just going on the second year, so I think that's probably a well-kept secret that we don't want to keep secret any longer, so I'm glad I'm up here talking about that today. But we have 7 families now in our family program. It's about 18 kids then that were unhoused now, and what Impact does is permanent supportive housing, so it's a little bit different. It's like for us, we do need permanent, and when families or our participants that are single, they come in and they are housed with us as long as they like. And we have had participants who've been with us 30 plus years, 20 plus years, 10 plus years. And for the families, they can stay with us until their youngest hits 24. Wow. And so for us, we've got infants in the program that have just been born, and we've got all the way up kids now to 18, but they're parents, the identified adult in the family has to have a diagnosed mental illness to fit with our mission. And so yeah, they can stay until they're 24. And then we'll help the adult find an apartment with us once their kids move out. But yeah, so it's well kept secret, but we're hoping, currently we're funded through state funding with ARPA, but we hope to, we've been applying for grants and things, trying to set us up for the next years moving forward.
It's Mental Health Awareness Month, right?
Yes, so I'm so glad I'm here today.
I'm glad more and more people are talking about mental health, because we were just talking on the break that it's still that stigma attached to it.
Yes.
And like, well, how can we get over that? I'm glad we have Mental Health Awareness Month so that people know, you know, pay attention to this, and everyone knows someone who might be suffering from some mental health issues.
Correct.
And I had never heard of Impact until this year.
Yeah.
Earlier this year, I heard about it from Lori Flanagan.
Yeah.
And it's amazing what you all do for the families. And you take care of them until their youngest turns 24. That's like unheard of.
That's correct. Yeah, we're small but mighty. But I think, you know, talking about the stigma, this certainly helps, right? In coming and talking about it. But I think that for our participants, well, you referenced everybody knows somebody that has maybe mental health struggles, but it is 25% of adults have a diagnosable mental illness. Now, whether they're being treated for it or not, you know, who knows? But I think that that's part of the problem is the stigma. People don't reach out for services or don't want to go to a therapist because of the stigma surrounding that. And I think that the work that we do, because we work primarily with zero income, low income folks who have Medicaid, we are working with and some of them, like for example in our employment program, we work with 3 different federally qualified health centers. We work with Erie Family Services, PCC Wellness, and then Howard Brown Health. And we bring our employment services to their folks that they're serving that have mental health challenges. And a lot of their patients that come to the health will come just to maybe get their meds that they need for behavioral health. And then they might meet with a psychiatrist or a therapist or something. And then in that discussion, it would be, they would say that they want to look for employment, and then that's when they get referred to us. So we have a variety of different programs, but I think one thing just about that employment program, we're one of the most successful in the state. I can talk about that a lot as well, in addition to our, yeah, we won an international award last year. For the most innovative employment program in our particular space, and we were nominated by actually the Department of Rehabilitation Services and the Department of Human Services, so it was great. But more importantly, this year, since July, we've helped 206 participants get jobs, and and some of them are getting great jobs. It's across a variety of employers, and that also helps with the stigma, right? Because you would think sometimes that people with mental illness, they can't work, they don't want to work, but that is not true. And we've gone from serving around 200 participants when I started. This year, when we finish the fiscal year, we'll have served over 800, and the growth primarily is in our employment program. So people want to work, our participants are working, and they're very successful at doing it, and that's going to help with the stigma.
Your waiting list must be really long.
Yeah, that we have waiting lists for our therapy program, our housing program, our employment program, and our case management program. So yeah, I think that's one of the things that I know we're still sort of pandemic-ish, but as you know, I think everybody knows that the COVID-19 pandemic really exacerbated mental health challenges, and I think for folks seeking out services, there's just not enough therapists, there's not enough folks for people to talk to, so there's been waiting lists in a variety of areas, but we're always searching for new funding to try to help with that.
You were saying, going back to the stigma, so you have a lot of people just functioning in the world with great jobs. They're executives, entertainers, Diddy, I mean, all sorts of just functioning, and like, how do people know that they're in a crisis, a mental health crisis? Because apparently, people, they're just functioning, they're just going about the world and moving up the ladder, but they have issues, and those issues come back. Like Diddy is the perfect example. Yeah. Those demons come back, and now he's losing everything because he didn't deal with those issues, whatever those issues were.
Right. And we have, there's been, Simone Biles has been pretty open now about her mental health challenges, and the more people with more followers or more influence, the better for us when they talk about their mental health challenges, because that really does help to destigmatize, because it's an illness just like any other illness, and that's the thing that we try also to, if we have participants who come to us and are feeling some sort of shame around their mental illness, we talk to them and say, listen, it would be no different than if you had diabetes or high blood pressure or something. It is an illness, and we're going to help you through it. And I think if we just meet people where they're at, we are not judgmental, and if the world could sort of be a little bit better about that, people wouldn't be so fearful to seek out help.
Definitely. I mean, I'm a recent college grad, and like many college students, I mean, I had plenty of times during my time at Purdue and in Indiana struggling with mental health, right? And some of the resources that were available were definitely not up to what I would believe should be the standard of mental health care. What do you see in terms of Evanston? What are we doing good, and then what can we be doing better to kind of fill in those gaps? Because I mean, what I'm hearing from you is that this is a fantastic organization that's part of our community, right? And there are other nonprofits that are also trying to cover these gaps, right? But obviously that's not always complete. So again, what are we doing well here in Evanston, and what can we be doing better to really serve the people that are part of our community?
Well, that is a hard question to answer, and I say that because there are so many competing causes and issues for funding, right? And I think it's trying to decide with the limited amount of resources where you're going to put the funding, say for the city, for example. But one thing I know is that the city has a committee for human services, and that committee, members on that committee do reach out to leaders of nonprofits to talk about things happening, and there's a lot of really great organizations here in Evanston doing good work, and we're all just trying to serve our participants and serve our clients and things. And we do have, I'm co-chair of the city's mental health task force along with Cindy Castro. She's a director of behavioral health at Ascension Hospital, and we have probably 15 or so organizations that are part of that task force, and we meet to talk about issues. And we have, for example, advocated, we just want to see money coming into nonprofits. So it doesn't, we're pretty collaborative, right? And as opposed to being competitive, we just want to see more services. One example I can give you is Turning Point. Their main office is in Skokie, but they have what's called the living room, and the living room model it's an alternative to someone who's having a mental health crisis go into the emergency room, right? They would go to the living room. The living room has peers who have been through it, and they also then can kind of triage what their issues are. If they need to go to the emergency room, they will, but they can also find out what these other issues are. And often it's because they have no resources, they can't pay their rent, they might be behind and just really struggling because of that. They might have substance use issues, or it might be mental health. So Turning Point's been doing that very successfully for years, and they have been serving Evanston residents. So they have now, it's been a year and a half or so. They came to Evanston, and there's been support and backing from the city, and the task force actually advocated at the city council to try to, talk about how many folks we could be serving. Impact is one of the partners, so it's Turning Point. Ascension donated a bungalow. I think they're charging like $1 a year to Turning Point, but they're remodeling it right now. I think it's going to be a month or so, and that's going to be up and going. So it's going to be Turning Point. Impact, our part is if the person coming in crisis needs employment, then they'll refer to us. If it is substance use, peer services will be a partner, and then Ascension with the building. So, and then Turning Point will do all the behavioral health care. So that's a great example of organizations coming together, advocating, trying to get more resources, because I think that's really something. Our emergency rooms, they're not social workers. They, I have a niece who's an ER nurse, and I can't tell you how many times she's come to me and said, it's like we are in the social work space, and that's not what we're experts at. So I think having this alternative, I think Turning Point, one of their presentations, like their percentage of folks that go to the ER after coming to them with this living room model is like 1%, like 99%. They're able to help them, and so that we're going to have that in Evanston pretty soon. But that's an example of really trying to figure out ways that we can help with the community and try to bring more services.
That is so awesome. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for all that you do.
Fantastic.
And anyone have a question before we let Patty go? Any questions? No stigmas here. Absolutely not.
Yeah, what I would like to know is, I think it's wonderful that you're here and you are speaking about this, but I've never seen you before. What other kinds of things are you doing to get the word out about your services?
Well, I try to speak in front of Rotaries. I've done all the Rotary clubs. I've gone to churches to speak. I've gone to not just their meeting of leaders, but I've gone to speak to different congregations. So, and we have staff members. We try to, if there's a conference or something, we try to do a panel presentation to raise awareness to. So we're trying to get out there. I think that, up until Lori actually is our Director of Development, until we had her, we didn't really have anybody helping us push any marketing, and so we're getting better at that as well. But yeah, we've been trying to do that for a while.
And
Where are you located?
Oh, can I quickly add to that, that question, because I think that's a fantastic question. And in one of my capacities, right, and some of the random things that I do, I'm the president of Community Alliance for Better Government. And on April 20th, we had a housing forum. It was joint between Evanston and Skokie to talk about some of the housing issues that are prevalent in both of our communities and how they're different, how they're similar, how we can work together to fight some of these issues. And Impact Behavioral Health was one of our partners in this work, and we had panel members, we had someone who utilized some of Impact's services come up and speak to her experience and how that shaped her life and how that's advanced her career and has helped her family. And coming to community events like that is so incredibly important, because there are so many people across Evanston, right, where, we should be at farmers markets, right? And being and talking and having conversations to our residents and say, like, look, these are some of the resources available. If you need help, tell us.
I will say it's frustrating for us sometimes, because we'll put out a press release about something like a grant that we've gotten or something. We don't get very much traction. Like the Roundtable has done a couple articles. The Daily Northwestern's probably done the most articles, I think, on us. But it's really hard. Like, we'll send the press release, we'll try to contact, we'll email reporters, things like that. But we don't get a whole lot of traction. We're a smaller nonprofit here, and I think sometimes, it's harder. I don't mean this in a competitive way, but some of the larger nonprofits, they get their press releases picked up where we might not.
Well, we're gonna push you out there.
Thank you, I appreciate
We're gonna push you
that,
out there.
yeah.
You're on the hotline today.
Thank you
Be
for
sure to
having us.
come back. The door is always open.
I will, well, you asked me, I'll be back, so I have a lot more I can talk about, so thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Okay, and we'll be right back.
Thank you. Yes, and then
just really like the concept of people coming together, getting an opinion of the people who live, the people who live in Evanston, and and the nice mixture of socioeconomic, different socioeconomic, different people groups, ages. So, yeah, and I wanted. Plus, I don't really know Malika, but I wanted to find out what this was.
So this was the third episode, and it keeps getting larger, and we need more and more people to come out and really participate and be engaged. We need to be engaged in these time periods. So come out and be engaged. Ask the questions you want to ask. Find out the information you need to find out. This is an important year. Better now than any time. So thank you.